morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're listening in the world to this podcast today. My name's Paul Webb. I am the founder of B2B Energy, and you are listening to Energy Speaks Back. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to episode 14 of Energy Speaks Back. Weekly, I present to you experts from around the world, and today we are back in the UK. Our subject today will be women working in the energy industry. Our objectives are for energy experts to gain a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today to deliver savings that impact on our planet. Today, I'm joined by an expert from the UK. She has her own business, Think, Inspire and Create, and she has held senior roles within the utility industry. So, without any further ado, I give you Hayley Monks. Good afternoon, Hayley, and how are you today?
I'm really well, thank you. You?
Yes, not too bad. Lovely to see you again. And since we last spoke, the sun's been shining, and there's been some big differences, obviously, with some announcements the last couple of days. I don't know whether you're in lockdown where you live at the moment.
I'm in tier 2. I'm in lovely rural Oxfordshire and keeping close tabs on what they're up to at the Oxford University with the progression with the vaccine.
Well, as of midnight tonight, I go into tier 3, so
oh, tough one.
Nice Christmas coming my way. But anyway, we Hayley, we met recently, and we've been discussing. I've written an article recently about women in industry and senior roles. Can you give us some background to you personally before we start discussing that in detail?
Yeah, sure. So as you introduced me, I'm Hayley Monks. I did 12 years with Centrica. I actually worked with the British gas business, part of Centrica. A number of roles. Primarily, I was responsible for credit and risk management for a good number of years there, but also worked in customer operations and customer excellence during my time there. I have been out of the working for a supplier, so to speak, for 5 years. I run a small business that works still with utility companies, both power and water. I am one of the founding members of the Women's Utility Network, and I'm also an advisor to an energy tech startup as well. So firmly sort of welded to the sector, even though I'm no longer employed directly in it.
Brilliant. And tell us more about the Women's Utility Network.
So the Women's Utility Network is a not-for-profit network that we set up in 2017. In fact, it is actually 3 years ago this month when the idea was first conceived, and we had our first meeting in January 2018. And we were a small group of women who are relatively senior in the industry with experience ranging from myself, more on the people and leadership time side, to the very established technical experts, such as Angie Needle, who's the strategy director at Cadent Gas, Rebecca Sedler, who's the policy and strategy director at EDF, Joe Butlin, who's the CEO at Energy Bridge, and Angela Pert, who was the managing director of Utility People. And Angela corralled us all and got us all together, and all feeling very much the same about the lack of women in the sector, but the lack of women that stay in the sector. And we formed this group to help recruit, retain, develop, and basically provide a go-to source of role models for women in the sector.
And how many members do you have currently?
We're just tipped over 2,200,
Wow.
which is a fantastic number, and I am
Yeah.
delighted with it, but it's still a drop in the ocean. There are about 566,000 employees in the energy, utility, and associated supply chain sector. And the stats from 2018 say 17% of those is women. So that would be about 96,000. So we're only 2,500 in terms of our reach. So we've got a long way to go. But yes, delighted with the
Yeah,
two and a half
that's
thousand we've got.
really good figures.
Mm.
So what levels are those individuals regarding, we're talking about senior roles, but they're not senior role levels. They're coming into the industry as well, are they?
Yeah, so our target membership are those maybe in the first 10 years of their career. So we even have people who are still at university studying a utility or energy related degree. They're coming along to our events and building connections before they've even gone into employment, right through to people, sort of balancing or looking to balance their career as they progress, how they apply for jobs. I'm right up to some very senior females in the sector. They're also part of the free mentoring scheme that we offer.
Yes, I really like the free mentoring system you provide. I've applied to join that. Obviously, I'm waiting for that to be signed off. I'm looking forward to doing some mentoring because that's something I really believe in actually providing my knowledge back to individuals. I'm really excited about that side of it. So tell me, what's your experience you've had personally regarding these roles and how you felt personally when you was working in the utilities?
So I would say on a personal level that it hasn't impacted my career on a personal level. And I think that's for two core reasons. The first reason is that I'm actually quite a strong person. So I'm not going to sit in the corner and be ignored. And so I think personality helps. But the second and really sort of fundamental reason for me was that I had the most amazing sponsor. The MD that helped propel my career at the time, he was what I would call a multiplier. I don't know if you've ever read the books Multiplier, but he's the kind of person that makes everybody else in the room feel more intelligent than they are, more capable than they are, and they've got more potential. And when you work for somebody like that, you and your position, you get elevated, you get opportunities, you get experience, you get exposure. So I was incredibly fortunate. I frequently was the only female on the majority of the leadership teams I sat on, or one of the minority females in the room. But my personality meant that I didn't actually let that bother me. I was aware of it, and I managed it as best as I could for my sort of individual needs. But I don't feel it hampered my career. But I do recognize it's not the same for everybody. And I think that's the important thing. Some of the stories that I hear today, either at our events or networking, or actually in my role as a mentor, I still hear some fairly terrible stories about how people are treated or what's said to them or how difficult it is for them in their careers. So by setting up and being part of the Women's Utility Network, I not only can act as a role model, but I can help and mentor people maybe charter some of those difficult waters.
There's a particular saying I was expecting you to say it just then regarding you mentioned it on our meeting. So are you going to share that favorite saying of yours?
Yes, don't ask, don't get. I mean, it's my favorite, and I use it. I use it all the time. I use it with my team, with my family. Don't ask, don't get. The answer might not always be yes, so you have to cope with rejection. I'm sorry. Yeah, the answer might not all be yes. You will sometimes have to cope with rejection if they say no, but actually, you're never left wondering, what if?
Yeah. So how can we make a difference to these figures? Is there something we can all do, or we've got to rely on the establishment to make those changes? Where are the changes got to come from?
Well, I think they have to come. They have to come from everybody. So when you're trying to create a movement, and that's what I think the Women's Utility Network is, we're trying to create a movement. We're trying to create awareness of the lack of diversity in the sector. Because I think it's all responsibility. As if you started at the top. When we say the establishment, if you look at the larger companies, so what would be the ex-Big Six, they are actually pretty good at, even balance of numbers, particularly in the boardroom. And whether that's because of their size or they're more under the spotlight, I don't know. But you maybe would expect the kind of less agile businesses to not be thinking about it, but they are. When you look at actually some of the new larger energy companies coming through, some of them have 0 women in their leadership teams and their boards. And I think they need to reflect on that. There's loads of research out there, which I won't go into quoting details now, but there's lots of research that says the more balanced your board from a gender perspective and from a diversity perspective, the more successful your business is likely to be, because we do think different. We are different. So firstly, I think the leadership teams need to think about actually how are they creating a more balanced board, and that can't be through quotas, because no woman wants to get a job just because the job had to be for a woman. She wants to get the job because she's the best person for the job. But it's actually, if you don't have any women managers in your business or women heads of or potential future directors, then you've got no pipeline of talent as well. So it goes much broader then about how we're recruiting, how we're retaining, how we're creating flexible working to enable women to stay in the workplace and to progress as much as possible.
So I've been talking to a lot of students and graduates coming through, and I would say the percentage of those graduates are mainly female and women that come in and looking for just joining the industry. I think that the figures coming through are a lot higher than what they were. And I'd like to think that those figures will start to increase. We're going to see the impact on those figures. And there's some particular advertisement for Shell at the moment. And they talk about Lime Jump. And that Lime Jump has been led by a female CEO, apparently. And I have seen other women rising into these positions at board level within the Big Six, etc. I'm seeing that myself. So it's happening, but slowly.
I think it will take time. You can't shift a number like 17% overnight, because you have to have a pipeline. And you're right, there's a lot of immensely talented, educated, qualified women coming into the sector. In the past, I think it has been seen as maybe a not very attractive or certainly not very sexy sector. There's lots more other exciting things to do out there. But the momentum around net zero and the fascination with developing creative solutions and renewable products has attracted more women into the sector. That creative influence is definitely attracting people in. And I've no doubt in the next 5 to 10 years, we will see an increase in women joining the sector, which is fantastic. The but that I have to put on is that we've got to keep them. They've got to come into the sector and not think or not feel that actually it's anti-women in any way. They've got to, as they progress through their career, not feel that they have to make the choice between having a family and having a career. There has to be that acceptance and support network around them to be able to do that, so that we can, keep women and their contribution in there. So I think you're right, it is changing, and we are seeing definitely more women coming in, but we just can't rest on our laurels and hope that's going to get better.
So what plans do you have for one, as you call it, the networking group? What is there plans for the future? You've got any events sorted out for next year?
Yes, I mean, we have our final event of 2020 tomorrow. We're just having a bit of a celebration of the year. It's been quite an amazing year for us. We have had over 18 events this year connecting people. We have had around 700 women attend our events, coming from nearly 70 different businesses. So we're really getting the message out there. These events are some of them are motivational and they're more about people and leadership and personal development. And then we've had some amazing presentations from everything to do with hydrogen, net zero, decarbonisation, electric vehicles, nuclear. So it's been an amazing year, and tomorrow will be a bit of a reflection on the year and what we've achieved. As we go into 2021, we are just planning the 2021 events calendar. We're starting, ironically, talking to you, we're starting in January with a podcast theme. So that will be our key event in January. But there's a lot of very exciting things which we will be sharing probably just before Christmas, when we've confirmed all of our speakers and our plans. And we very much hope that we can get together physically again. Yeah. Our events in London were always, tremendously successful events with women physically connecting one another and creating their own little micro networks and support networks. And, there's a lot of pride as one of the co-founders seeing that we helped make that happen.
And it is predominantly UK based at present.
So yes, and I think it is. And doing my research on the at the end of the year to do some stats, my research on who's attended this year and how many people that, we have some people who've attended every event that we've done. Some of the organizations I wasn't familiar with the name. And I'm not a sort of utilities guru. So I did some Googling to find out. And some of them actually were from Europe and the States. So as we've gone virtual, it's enabled people to dial into some of the events.
Yeah.
So it's a sprinkling. It's not, it's not a huge amount, but I think one of the upsides of the current situation is that we can all be global.
Yeah. Well, I've got quite a few women that support me regarding the energy experts we work with. So in Australia, there's an energy consultant, Candice. She's basically based in Sydney. I'm working with people in Africa, India. There's many students coming through India. I'm sort of in my group of people that I work with. I wouldn't say it's an even based, but I would say it's probably 60-40. In so 40% of that group is probably females coming through. So and overseas, I think it's going to be a bigger figure. So I think you're going to see more of that coming through from overseas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally disagree. I did have a lady contact me on LinkedIn on Friday from Canada, asking whether or not the Women's Utility Network had a chapter in Canada. And we don't. But I said, well, actually, let's talk about it. Let's get some time together, and we're going to speak in the new year, and maybe they can help generate that same sort of movement out there.
Right. I've got Canadian friends. I've got a lady who does energy brokerage, actually. She was based in America and she's moved to Canada. She's a massive networker, and I think she probably will be a good contact for you to talk to regarding that side as well. So I think globally, there's some, we're not talking about a majority of people out there to come in to support you, but I think the more people that hear about this, the more momentum that you could possibly gain in the right direction of what you're trying to achieve. What's your plans in the future for the mentoring? Are you looking to take that any further regarding some form of accreditation and things?
We're exploring a lot of what we can do resource-wise and how we could help. The mentoring scheme's been enormously successful. We have 37 mentors now. So these are, people such as yourselves who are giving up their time for free to mentor young talent. In the utility sector. And if you go to the website and take a glance through and look at the mentors, the majority of them are fully booked, which is testament to the success of the program. So we're always looking for more mentors. And I often say to people, just because you may not be particularly senior or, broadly knowledgeable in utilities, if you've got a niche, or there's always something we can pass on and share to other people. To volunteer for mentors and to still put in the word out there that there is a free mentoring service, or we do all the paperwork and the shuffling and matching people together. But the mentor and the mentee, you know, they connect, they get on if there's a relationship there, and then they have a mentoring arrangement. We provide guides and a structure on how we think it should operate.
Yeah,
but we haven't actually formalized it any further than that. I think fair to say it's all been quite a whirlwind, and it's been incredibly popular and incredibly welcomed by the women. So yeah, it's definitely a thought for the future.
brilliant. So, talking about the future, what is the future for Hayley regarding your business? Can you tell us about what you're doing in your business?
So as I said, I run a small training and consultancy company. We help organizations identify, understand, and resolve key business problems. The organizations tend to be fast growing, so they've maybe not paid enough attention to their foundations. And then they suddenly realize that you can't operate in the same way. And we're pretty skilled at going in and doing that. Part of that's experience of working in the sector or associated sectors. And part of that has been skills we've developed over time. We're an incredibly visual team, and we work with pictures. So, if I tell you a story, you'll remember some of it. But if I put a picture up and tell you a story, you'll remember most of it.
Exactly.
That works hugely. So we have some ambitious plans for 2021. We've recently recruited some new people. We aim to grow and expand both the consulting and the training side of it. And hence, my comment earlier about conversation with somebody in the States, I would never have anticipated taking a business as small as ours overseas.
Yeah.
But now anything's possible. So yeah, it's exciting times.
It is. It very much is so. Now, at this stage of the podcast, I would normally like to just put you on the spot. I know I've been putting you on the spot all afternoon, but can I put you on the spot regarding giving us a takeaway or a message that you can give our listeners, just to take away from what you're doing?
I think it's got to be, where are the role models, and are you a role model, and what are you doing to role model? Role models got to be the word. If you're a young person coming into the utilities sector, in fact, to be honest, in coming into any sector right now, globally, we're in a really challenging time. And if I'm a young person coming in, I want to see some role models. I want to see there's a future there, and I want to see the art of the possible. And as a woman, I want to be able to see female leaders. I recognize I can be trained and mentored and developed by men just as much as I can women. There's no challenge in that. But in terms of where's my future, or what could my future look like, where are my role models? And so it will be help us get role models. And if you can be a role model, have a voice and be that role model.
And don't be frightened to ask the question.
Absolutely. And ask and go and ask your CEO for one-to-one with him and tell him how fabulous you are. Go and ask somebody for help. Most people weren't asked for help. In fact, every time somebody asks you for help, how many times do you say no?
You don't, because you like helping people. That's the thing. You get enjoyment out of that.
Yeah. And so people just need to go and ask more. Absolutely, go and ask for help, and you'll find you will get a lot of what you. And I think that's the difference between sometimes not success and failure, because failure is maybe too strong, but the speed of success is my confidence and my willingness to go and ask for help. It's like, can you find somebody who can help me with this? Or I need more knowledge about that. Who's the best? Can you introduce me?
And it's not, so I would say it's not asking that question because you're failing or it's about the failure. You're just taking a short step back, or you might even taking a step to one side to take them 2 steps forward by getting the right answer or a answer. The answer could be no, and that could be the answer you need to make you go around the barrier. You don't know, do you? Until you've asked that question, you don't know.
No. And it's, one of the things we talk about in the Women's Utility Sector is having that career plan. It's knowing where you're going and knowing what you want to achieve. And a lot of people don't have that. Partly, I think, because it's not something that's trained and developed in young people when they join businesses. And partly maybe because there aren't enough role models to see, well, actually, this is where I could get to. This is what I could achieve. And I think having that plan, thinking about it, spending some time, and then asking the questions, well, what do I need to achieve it? What help do I need to get there? Setting that goal is incredibly important.
Brilliant. Well, Hayley, thank you very much for joining us today. I wish you every success with the group that you've set up and you're working with. I find it very exciting what you're doing. I'm really looking forward to being a part of your mentoring team, and I'm more than happy to come and support where I can. I know Angela very well. I think she nearly tried to get me in a couple of jobs once when she was working with utility people.
I'm sure she did.
You've got a great team. So I wish you every success with it. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today on this podcast. And thank you for my special guest. Please go and check out our website on www.b2benergy.co.uk, where you can see many more insights to how you can manage that third largest expense. Thank you. That just leaves me for one more thing to say. Be safe.